Hi folks, Chris Mask from Eastlink Community TV's off the Chip Wagon. Hopefully you and your family are doing well in these unique times, but a little bored, looking for something to do in the kitchen and occupy your mind. Let's talk about a deep, dark secret that we all have buried into the far recesses of our closet, or in this particular case, our freezers. I have no idea what this is. Happens to all of us. You forget about things slip through the cracks, so to speak, but you don't have to just throw it out. You know, there's three reasons why this is going to occur. One, it's improperly packaged. There's a rip, there's a bit of air that gets in there, and that's where vacuum sealers can come into play. If you vacuum seal stuff before you put it in the freezer, you significantly increase its shelf life. Number two, well, kind of like I did, you forget about things. Happens to the best of us, trust me. Or the third reason why you're going to get freezer burn, your freezer itself. And that's why you should be cleaning it out and doing maintenance to it, making sure that there's not too much ice building up on the inside of it, because you need that airflow to keep your food safe. And if you're a hunter, if you just buy stuff at the store, you fish a lot, you don't want to ruin that stuff because, I mean, it's a waste and we don't want to waste food. That's bad. Freezer burn isn't actually a burn. You may have heard of evaporation, and that's our scientific reaction where we're basically taking a liquid and turning it into a gas. Well, with sublimation, and that's what causes freezer burn, is sublimation, you're now taking a solid, like those moisture molecules in your meat, converting it to a gas, and then creating some dehydration on the surface, which is where we get the discoloration and a bit of a funky taste. But don't worry, you're not going to get sick off of it. There's no foodborne pathogens in freezer burn. It just doesn't look pretty, and it does kind of have a little off taste, shall we say. But here's how you can repurpose your freezer burnt meat. Turn it into jerky. Slice it thin, throw it into the dehydrator, into your oven on the barbecue, dry it out. And if you still don't like the taste of it, well, now you have pet treats for your dog or your cat. They're going to love it. They don't have such a finicky palate. The second thing you can do with freezer burnt meat, braise it. You're looking at a 5 to 6 hour slow cook in your slow cooker, in the oven, however you want to do it. Turn it into a stew, a chili, but you want to go with an aggressive flavor spicing here. So those flavor profiles, we should be looking at like a Caribbean jerk. I should be looking at something like a punchy curry or really a bright chili. If it's ground meat that you have your freezer burn on, once you thaw it out, just take a spoon and scoop off the freezer burnt section, or larger chunks of meat, just slice it off. Now, the other thing that you can do with your freezer burnt meat is turn it into a broth or a stock. And you might be thinking, Chris, isn't that the same thing? Not quite. You see, a stock is going to be made from things that have bones in it, kind of like this. But a broth, you're going to make that with things that don't have bones, kind of like what used to be pork loin. Technically still is, but no bones in it. So this is going to be a broth versus these beef ribs, which will turn into a stock. Now, big pot. If you're making a stock with the bones, anything with bones, roast it at about 400 for an hour before it goes into the pot with the water. It's just going to help bring out some of those flavors. But when your meat goes into your pot, cold water, and you want to fill it up at least a couple inches, 3-4 inches above where that meat layer is, the cold water is going to help draw the collagen out and really give your broth or stock a full body flavor to it. You want to start it off slow, and that's also the reason why you're using your cold water for temperature regulation. You'll notice things are eventually going to start to form on the surface. Just skim it off. But once that stuff stops forming, here's where it's going to cook for a good 4 hours in total, from start to finish, once that boil starts, low and slow. After that, here's where now you can throw in vegetables. And I'm talking things like onion and celery. You can go for the whole, mirepoix with your peppers and your carrots and things like that. But the veggies go in after the first 4 hours for 2 hours. So this is a 6-hour process to make a broth or a stock, whatever you're doing with this. And again, don't get an aggressive boil or it's going to be cloudy, and don't let it go too long or it's going to start tasting bitter. From there, throw it through a sieve with some cheesecloth. And by the time it's all said and done, you're going to have a beautiful broth, like this beef broth here, or this is a venison stock. If you're a hunter and a forager out there, you'll notice it's a little bit darker, bit of a different consistency to it. How do I have these stocks so readily available? Because when you're done with it, and you'll end up with a lot of liquid, freeze it. Put it into an ice cube tray and then you've got it for gravies and sauces all year long. Just a little bit of kitchen ingenuity, and your freezer burnt meat, not so much of a problem. You don't have to throw it out and waste it. Stay safe, everybody.